I just noticed it. That's awesome.
So I'll introduce you guys. You'll be backstage, and then when I'm done, I'll sit down and you guys can come stand here. And stand like kind of inside that table.
That's like the people.
Yeah, yeah. So like inside
You'll
the
be from
table.
the
Yeah, inside the table is where you like kind of yeah.
But the experience of doing things on Windows is so much better. Like there's like a special button.
It's a good thing without it, right?
Use Windows for everything. I'm gonna throw away the Mac.
Hey, take a video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, I should like donate it.
I might pop up this all day.
And it's service code.
I like your name tag.
Do you have a name tag?
I don't know, name tag.
Oh, quick. You should take me to them.
I think Sam actually.
You will know your name.
Yeah, last time I said something like, they don't pay me all the time, and people like, make it the front. Wait, so like if you exit the full screen, wow. If you exit the presentation, it will be mirroring. Okay, that shows it. I will like uninstall all the Meteor.
Wait, no, hold on.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work, you can use the buttons.
Function and full.
Projector button. And then it will definitely work.
Yeah, so can we just do it? It's just easier. Okay.
I think it switches.
And when you do the demo, like can you exit the wow, so like PowerPoint has access into like system configuration.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Close the door. Alright, so I'm gonna introduce you.
Well, you can.
Can you guys go back to the and I'll introduce you behind him, and then I'll All right, everyone. We're going to get started. Welcome, everyone, to our March DevShop evening program. I'm really glad everyone could join us. If you're joining us online, please click the live button under the screen to sync up with the live stream. And you can tweet your questions for the speakers in with hashtag DevShop. So our first talk tonight is presented by Meteor core developers Sashko, Stubailo, and Slava Kim. Along with Avital Oliver, they're the team that's been building official Windows support for Meteor, which is coming very soon as part of Meteor 1.1. In fact, we're happy to announce that Meteor 1.1 release candidate 0 is available as of yesterday. The Windows team has been working very hard on this since November last year, and Sashko and Slava are here to tell you about their work to make Windows a first-class Meteor development platform. Please welcome Sashko and Slava.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sashko.
I'm Slava.
Yeah, and what we've been working on for the past 5 months is making the experience of developing Meteor apps on Windows just as good as it is on Linux and Mac. So after 1.0 came out in October 28th, I believe it was, we had meetups in over 100 countries around the world. And it turns out if you go to those countries, you'll not see as many people using Macs in coffee shops or in universities like you see here. Most people, in fact, over 90% of people in the world use Windows on their computers. And we want to be able to reach those people the same way that we reach everyone else and make it easy for them to build apps as well. And collaborate with their friends that are using Mac and Linux computers. So we started out with a really high standard for quality. So we didn't want Windows to be kind of the platform that is like always lagging behind Mac and Linux in terms of Meteor development. So we set out with the goal of making the initial experience just as good as in Mac and Linux. All of the release version numbers, starting from 1.1, it will all be the same versions on all the platforms, and all of them will work the same way. And any new feature we add, hopefully we will be able to implement for all of the platforms. We want it to be easy to install on any platform, just as easy to install on Windows. In fact, actually kind of easier, as you'll see, than on Mac and Linux. And we wanted to make it so that everything just works, even more so than sometimes you run into problems actually running Node on Windows that we'll tell you about later. And we actually even worked hard to fix those problems for people who are using Meteor. So it's very important for us to give a shout out here to Tom and Stefan, the main maintainers of the community Windows port that you could use from win.meteor.com before. A lot of people were very happy using it, and we're glad to take it off their hands so that they no longer have to spend their valuable time working on this, and we can make it a part of core. So now Slava is going to give you a demo of what it's like to use Meteor on Windows. Just escape. Here we go. There we go.
Okay. So
Slava's not as used to using Windows as I am. So
I never use Windows on two screens. I think that's evident. So I'll give you a short demo how it works on Windows. First of all, I'll go to the short URL to download the latest Windows preview. And as of today, it's RC of version 1.1. So here you can find the link on GitHub, and you can download it. But I already have it, so I'll save you time and open it in the downloads folder. So I'll just run the installer, and as you can see, the installing process on Windows is very different from Mac and Linux. On Mac and Linux, you just need to paste a line of code in your terminal. On Windows, people are not used to these kind of things. And people expect something like this, a graphical installer, and that's exactly what we built. Also, while it's installing, let me show you a terminal emulator that I'm going to use. It's called Konemu. I think it's much better than CMD that is built in. It has a lot of cool features, and one of my favorite is opening several tabs and copy and paste that CMD is lacking. So we'll wait a little bit until the installation finishes. And it will finish, I promise.
yeah,
Well,
so it's just unpacking the tarball, just like you would do on Mac or Linux.
And as you can see, we follow the traditions of Windows installers, and we show a very accurate progress bar. It's almost done, almost there, a little bit. Well, let me tell you something about this installer. It was a very great experience developing it in C++ using the Wix toolkit. And our whole team learned C++ for this. And C++ is not as bad as you might think. But that's a different story. What's going on?
Well, do you already have it installed, or is it?
Okay, let's check.
Oh,
okay, we can skip this. Well, anyway, let's say you installed it. Let me just put it somewhere. Oh, it's done.
Finished. Yay.
Great. Okay, I think it just installed Meteor again, so it's fine. But what I want to show you is that I can sign in with my Meteor developer account. And you can also sign up for a new one right here. So let me sign in with mine. And we are done. It will show you a screen with short instructions, how you can get started with Meteor. So now we'll have Meteor here. That's cool. And the version of it will be 1.1 or C0. So I'm going to create a test app. I hope you can see it well. Let me create the leaderboard app that probably a lot of you already seen before. And everything works exactly the same. I just type dir instead of ls. And I can run it. Great. Almost done. Oops.
Just unstar Meteor.
Yep.
Are we below?
And if I open localhost 3000, you can see it's the same app as you're used to. So now let me open the text editor. And I already have this file opened. So let's change the title to Windows Preview, and we'll save it. And as you would expect, Meteor will rebuild the whole thing in the background and refresh the page for you. So that's kind of cool. And let's open another tab and show that all the other favorite features of Meteor command line tool work really well.
Switch directories.
Oh, yeah. First of all, I would need to cd into leaderboard. And now I can run Meteor shell. And as you would expect, Meteor shell has the full access to the server-side environment, just like on Mac or Linux. Oops, .exit. And the last thing that we can show you is that you can deploy it. I'll deploy it to a website called Devshop Mocha. And it will upload the bundle to our free hosting. So since I already signed in with my Meteor developer account, it already knows who I am, so it will allow me just to deploy it. If you don't sign in on the installation, you would need to create a new account, and it will be free as you would expect. So while it's uploading, I can create a new GitHub repository and push it to my remote server. And then my friends can download it on Mac and Linux and also develop with me, because this version is available on all platforms. So now we kind of failed to clean up some temporary directories, but I believe it still succeeded to deploy. So let's show that. devshopmoch.meteor.com. And as you can see, the app is here and it's working. And we even have yay.
Awesome.
Good job.
Great.
And now Sashko will continue with the presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Slava. What a great demo. And so now that we've shown you a demo, I want to go over some of the interesting technical things that we had to do to make it work like that. So the first thing that actually really helped us is the design of the Meteor package system. So I don't know if you guys have used like NPM or something like that before. A lot of times you'll install a package, and then it just downloads the source code of that package and then starts compiling it on your computer. And this means that to use a lot of NPM packages, you have to have installed on your computer a compiler, maybe some additional libraries like OpenSSL, all of that fun stuff. But in the Meteor package system, when you download a package, it's already pre-built with all the binaries that you need for your system. And I think on Windows it's actually even more important, because I think on Windows people are probably even less likely to have some of the libraries that you need to compile things, because it takes longer to install them. It's not as easy to know which libraries you need, stuff like that. So that's the first major benefit, is to use Meteor on Windows. You don't need any compilers or anything like that. You just install Meteor and you're good to go. And just as on Mac and Linux, we also install Node for you, like secretly, so that you can run it without having to do anything else. And on the other side of the story, for Meteor package authors, they also don't need to have a Windows computer to publish something for Windows. Because we have available for package authors Meteor build machines with every kind of platform that you might need, they can just run a command to get a Windows virtual machine in the cloud they can use to build their package so that people can download it. So an interesting other thing we had to do is before this release, we had a slightly different package format that involved some file paths that were actually invalid on Windows. In particular, on Windows, you can't actually have colons in your file paths, which is a thing that we kind of didn't foresee until we started working on this project. So when we download packages built by old Meteor releases, we actually have to convert them in memory before we unpack the package into your hard drive. So this is just an example of one of the things we have to do to make it like a seamless experience. So the way that we implemented a lot of these things, a lot of the features of Meteor to work on Windows, is we implemented a conversion layer that wraps the entire Node file system API using our own special function calls. So they do things like mainly converting file paths to have the right slashes. And so this means that instead of rewriting all of Meteor to use the correct file system slashes, we just have to make sure that this one layer understands how to convert those things. And it basically makes everything a lot easier. And in the future, when people are developing new features for Meteor, they also don't have to worry about Windows file path problems. We can just fix all of those in this conversion layer. So there are a lot of other fun things that we had to do that actually are like, you think that when you write your code in Node, it's like automatically going to be cross-platform, but it turned out not to be the case. So one thing was Windows doesn't have inter-process signals like Unix does. So on Linux, we used to send an inter-process signal to do client-only refresh, which is when you change the CSS in your app and your server doesn't restart. It just pushes that directly to the browser. But now we use Node's IPC pipes, which is a great feature that they have. We also had to replace socket files, which again don't exist on Windows, with network sockets to make Meteor shell work. We had to remove symlinks from our internal structure of where we store packages, because on Windows you have to be an administrator to create a symlink, and we didn't want to make people have to be an administrator to run Meteor. My favorite one so far that I found out is actually there's a bug in Node, I guess, where on Windows if you console.log something and then you immediately call process.exit in your Node app, that log will actually disappear forever and never be seen by anybody. So we had to have a workaround that flushes all of your output to the screen before quitting. And that's just like included in every Meteor app now, so you can be sure that all of your consoles will get printed. And the last one was just a couple days ago, we fixed a problem where the main library that people use for handling tarballs in Node was broken on long file paths in Windows. So if you had a file path that was like over 260 characters, I guess, and you made a tarball using Node, that file would just not be there. So we fixed that, and we have a pull request that we submitted to Fstream. So hopefully they can fix that as well. So now that we've done all this fun stuff, there's a lot of cool places we can go. So as you may have noticed, we didn't demo creating mobile apps on Windows because that feature currently isn't supported. It's the only thing that we haven't gotten a chance to build because we figured it would be good to get it out fast before going into the whole thing of making PhoneGap and Cordova work properly on Windows. But once we get to that, we can even target maybe a new platform of Windows Phone, which was impossible before because you can only build those apps on Windows. And another thing that I think will be really cool is, like we talked before, Windows users expect a little bit of a different user experience than Mac and Linux users, where they're happy typing things into the command line all the time. I think on Windows, people often expect having an IDE or a graphical interface. And just recently, Visual Studio announced their first legitimate version of Node.js support, which has a lot of very fancy features. And so it would be great to integrate Meteor with something like that. So to close, Meteor on Windows is available now. You should try it today. A lot of people are already using it and submitting great feedback for us to improve. So if you go to this URL, you can download the installer that we just showed you and play around with things and let us know if it works for you. And we hope it will. Thank you. Any questions?
In the back.
I saw a demo of somebody using Meteor to target desktop applications on the Mac, like to build for like a standard build menu bar desktop Mac app. Do you think Meteor on Windows could also mean Meteor for Windows, like desktop apps?
I can
Go for
take
it.
it. So probably what you have seen was an integration
Repeat
with
the question.
Oh, okay. The question was, I think the question was, right now somebody showed a demo where they were building a native Mac app with Meteor. Is it possible to build native Windows apps with Meteor now as we support Windows? And I think what you've seen was an integration either with MacGap or one of the native shells with Chromium and Node, namely Node WebKit is one and Atom Shell is another one. And MacGap doesn't really work that well outside of Mac because it targets Coca. That is a OS X specific framework. And I think Atom Shell and Node WebKit actually do work well on Windows because they actually bundle the whole Chromium, which already has a lot of cross-platform libraries for UIs, or creating windows and manipulating them. So I think it's definitely possible. It's definitely not in the scope of this project, but as you said, it was probably a community project, and I'm pretty sure they can integrate with that if they want to.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh. And a fun fact, if you didn't notice, that we did the presentation on a Windows laptop, which is pretty cool. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, our next speaker is Max Harris, a software engineer at LePort Schools. Max has been using Meteor for 18 months since version 065. He has co-authored 3 production apps for LePort Schools, built completely in Meteor, including a pickup time coordinator used by parents, a report card system, and a student information system. In the last few weeks, Max has been exploring how to use Meteor as a backend for React, Facebook's JavaScript library for building user interfaces. And he's here tonight to tell us what he's learned. Please welcome Max.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay, so this is about my 2 weeks with React and Meteor. So I'm going to cover 3 things tonight. The first is to set a little bit of context about Meteor, Blaze, and React and how they relate. The second is to show you parts of this login component that I rebuilt in React. It's basically a little bit pieces of accounts UI in Meteor. And then the final thing is some practical stuff about how to render a collection, a Meteor collection with React, a little bit on testing, and a package that I have that'll make working with Meteor and React a little bit easier. So my goal tonight is to show you how well Meteor and React work with each other, not to demonstrate any really particularly profound insight or new thing. And my goal is not to get you to switch to React. I've only been working for this, or with React for about a couple of weeks. So I'm really pretty new to it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is a quick recap of some work that I presented in a lightning talk in January here, just to show the kind of the stuff I've been doing. So all of this is done in Blaze. There's no React code in here, so it's just a bit of context setting. So this is a task manager. Our teachers use this to edit report cards and send each other report card editing tasks. So you can open this thing up, and so there's a lot of really complicated user interface in here. So there's a lot of things that basically work well if you do them as components. So this is a little calendar widget that you can set. Down here we have this little date picker, or time picker, sorry. We can flip the times, so on and so forth. So there's all of these features and really complicated user interface state that this thing does. So that's what I've been able to do with Blaze. That's kind of an example. So anyway, the current Blaze is built to make reactive templating easier, easy. You know, and throughout this process, building that application, I really struggled with it. I stumbled on this hacky pattern that let me do user interface components in Blaze. And so this talk is not about trashing Blaze, which is arguably more appropriate than React for a lot of applications. So you shouldn't switch away from that. You really shouldn't go and waste your time switching to React just because it's like the current buzz thing. But for me, if you have this complicated user interface you're trying to build, the React model is really interesting. So notice that this talk is about React and Meteor, not React or Meteor. So Meteor, you guys know this. So Meteor is way, way, way more than reactive HTML rendering. It's way more than that red box up there in the client, way more than Blaze. So I've met a lot of people that have heard of Meteor, but they just don't know this. They basically think that this is the only thing there, and it's the only important thing about it. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So if you go into Meteor and count lines, Blaze, right, the library that does reactive HTML rendering is just a little bit more than 1/10 of Meteor. So this is just by line count. If you clone the repo and go in there and and count things, this is what you get. So there's quite a lot more to this than just the view layer. So, okay, so why React? Well, spare the hype. There's a lot of resources out there that'll tell you all about how great React is. I have these two reasons. One, I guess I kind of alluded to, is the complex, huge user interfaces that I do need components. And templates are almost never what I need. And right now, React is really good at doing these UI components. That'll change in the future, I'm sure. But so one of the things that's nice about React is that it's just the view layer. So this is its greatest strength and also its greatest weakness. So making React components that have parent and child relationships and that pass state around, and you set state in one component and something that's really near it affecting another component is really easy. You really don't need a lot of stuff. You can just use React to do that. Where things get tricky is when you want to manage state within a deeply nested arrangement of React components. And so React, its great strength and weakness is that it doesn't attempt to deal with this. The way Facebook wants you to do this is to use this thing called Flux. So Flux is complicated. Just choosing a Flux library is a project in itself. All of these are Flux libraries. Notice the Back to the Future references and all of the names, right? Like Flux capacitor, DeLorean, McFly. That's awesome. So I love Back to the Future, but this is a mountain of complexity. So the Flux philosophy might be good, might be great for a company with billions of users and billions of dollars, right? But if you try building for a billion people before you get to 10,000, you'll just sink. So I don't think it's the right thing to start with. So if you're trying to build something really good, really quickly, and you don't even know if your idea is any good, you don't want to get mired in details like Flux. So if you're trying to build something that can scale and you don't need a mountain, a small army of people to maintain it and write it, you don't want Flux. And this is where Meteor can help. Okay, so I wanted to evaluate React because I'm a Meteor developer to see if it was right for me. And I needed something small to start out with in case this was a bad idea for some reason. So my goal was to replace accounts UI and styled and add some features with new React code. So that's what I'm going to show you now. Okay, flipping to the screen. This is pretty vanilla looking login component. But if you go, we added the shake behavior, which is kind of cool. If I type in my name and I just hit the tab, it auto-fills in this little thing, which I thought was kind of cool. You can go, and if you click on that, it'll say, hey, wrong password. You can set a flag in this to make it so that it'll report a custom error message. So if you don't want it to report whether the username and password was wrong, for some weird security thing, you could do that. You can set a flag in my package. And it will give you that behavior. So anyway, I think I know my password. I'm going to put it in the wrong one, though. And then I'm going to bring up the password reset. So this is something that Accounts UI does in Meteor. And let's go to my terminal. Okay. So I can enter my email address. And I can click on that and grab up this URL, which I can barely see. Copy that. OK, that's like I clicked on my email to reset the password, right? So this is all redone in React. There's no Blaze making these screens come up. OK, so I'm going to do my password, and I'll do it wrong to show that it checks it. And I got that shaking behavior in there. So that works. So I'm going to set my password to ASDF. It's really secure. And OK. OK, and hey, it logged me in, right? Just exactly what Accounts UI does. So OK, that was, I believe, the functionality, the package I wrote in React. OK. So how do you add Meteor React to your project if you're really into it and you really want to get going? So Ben Newman wrote and maintains this package. So he worked on React at Facebook before he joined Meteor here to work as a core developer. So this package hooks up your React components that you'll write, imbuing them with the same reactivity that you've come to expect from Meteor in general. Another thing I just thought of is you can get Meteor Blaze templates and React components to work together pretty seamlessly with this. I don't actually demo it. I'm showing all of this React code, but you might be interested in that. Okay, so anyway, this is a bit of React code. And the stuff here in red are the Meteor-specific parts. So if you look down on the fourth line there where it says meteor.userid is not equal to null, that's this reactive thing, right? This get meteor state will, with that little bit in there, it'll hide the whole login component so it doesn't show on the screen when you don't want it to be there. It's really, really easy. There's not a lot of stuff that you do. Everything in gray is just vanilla React code, and the Meteor-specific stuff is really easy to add. So going in, so that's at the top level. But if going in the package that I wrote, when you click on that reset password link in your email, a new page comes up. And this is code that sets the login component into the reset password mode. And so what I wanted, the reason I put this up here is because I wanted to show you that you know, if you work with React, you can go all the way down and you can replace the account's UI stuff, and you can go and put in React code in there, and it'll work just great. So parts of the system you might not normally get into are modifiable. You can change them and build your own stuff, and it works great. So even great features like the awesome account system that Meteor has are things that you can change. They work so well together, and it's so easy. So anyway, I liked the work that I had done. I liked React so much from my experience with the login component that I decided to keep going. And I can show you this reactive students collection thing. I didn't anticipate, maybe I should, trying to read. Okay, so here, you know what? I'll just bring up the terminal. Okay, so let's flip to, let's see, is that George Weasley? Or no, that's Hermione, right. So I can change Hermione to something funny here, right? And I can save it. And it updates reactively pretty nicely. And there's localhost 3000. And let's see if I can do that again. You know, that works just like you'd expect. It's nothing special if you've been using Meteor for a long time. But basically, this is all done. This is a React view and a pretty standard, normal, vanilla Meteor collection. So now we'll get to some code. Okay, so this is all of the React-specific code that you have to change in that React component to get that to work. I won't show you the Meteor collection here because there's nothing special about it. It's exactly the same Meteor collection, the same Mongo queries, the same everything, the same publish API. All of that stuff is exactly the same. It's just the stuff here in red that you have to change to get React hooked up in that reactive way. So this is really super easy, easy peasy, right? Get Meteor state replaces get initial state. So if you're writing React code, you have to write something like that get Meteor state function anyway. And the thing you have to add here is a query to the mini Mongo on the client, right? And I guess the only other special thing is here is you do a start Meteor subscriptions, which associates that with this particular component. So including braces, I only had to touch 6 lines to get this thing hooked up. So really, there's no reason to be afraid of this. Okay, maybe I should do a little demo of the testing stuff. So I wrote a few tests for the login component in React. So here it is running in Velocity. It's just Velocity and Jasmine and the built-in test utils that come with React. It works great. It's actually amazing how little trouble I had with it. So this is an example, one of the tests that I wrote. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, I don't know. But here it is. I tried to highlight some of the React-specific stuff. And I guess the little takeaway here is that instead of using jQuery to actually interrogate, to render this thing into the DOM and interrogate that to make sure that it's rendering correctly, here we have a simulated React component that doesn't actually get to the DOM. And what we're doing here is testing its state, which is really easy and really awesome. And it kind of gets you away from messing with too much user interface code. So I really like that approach, and it was really easy to do. So yeah, mostly what we're doing is we're testing the coordination between those components to make sure the right thing in the right state comes up at the right time on a certain click. Not hard. This is a minor detail if you decide to start using React and Meteor together. But in the very latest release of React, class set, which is this thing you would use to flip the class on a DOM element, has been deprecated, so they pulled it out. And so you'll get this warning message if you take some code off of the internet and just stuff it into your project, that it's going away. And so this wouldn't be very interesting, except that if you follow that link, the package they point to is an NPM package by Jed Watson. It's called class names. And the trouble with that is if you want to package it up so that you can get it on the client, it's a little painful. You can add Jed's package to your project, build it with Browserify, and then put it on the client. Or you can just use this package that I made and flip that name there, and it'll get you going a little faster to get rid of that warning. So anyway, that's most of my talk. I guess what I'd like to close with is that this has been really smooth sailing for me. So in only 2 weeks, I've basically learned how to work with React. I did a custom accounts component. I figured out how to do testing with it. And I even did, in an hour, I did this data-driven stuff with really no problem at all. And that's thanks to a lot of really great demos and resources that are out there. So at last month's Devshop, Yuri showed us that Angular and Meteor really work together. And hopefully I've showed you that React and Meteor work really well together also. So Meteor makes this amazing backend for any modern reactive front end out there, whether that front end is Angular or Blaze or anything else that might be coming. I think it's the best way to go. So anyway, I guess the last thing I'd like to say is if you're new to React, Meteor is the best way for you to get started with it. It's so much easier than messing around with Flux. I spent 3.5 hours last week working on a Flux project with React. Actually, it was in Reflux, but it was horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So I definitely encourage everybody to get on and try this out if they're interested. Any questions?
Oh, thanks so much. Question here.
So there's a package called Meteor and React Flow Components, that is attempting to, as you described, like when you have a lot of events and nested state, that can be very complex. And
Yeah.
that's one approach to it. I was wondering if you looked at that package.
No, I haven't. I wish I did. It would be awesome to be able to. Yes, Arnota made this package, Meteor Flow Components, I think it's called, and Meteor Hex, yeah, and Flow Components, and yeah, that's probably really cool. Yeah, but I just haven't done anything with it. Okay.
Is it Blaze or React, one or the other?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, so the question is it Blaze or React? And the answer is no. You can actually mix and match these with absolutely no problem. I really wish I demoed that. That would have been really smart. But
on the same page? On
the same page, yeah. You can go and put up a div and instance. I have done it in the past. It's really not hard. Yeah, so you'll have absolutely no problems. Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. Yep.
We have some questions from online. So Dan Daskalescu is asking, what drove the choice of React versus Polymer or native web components?
Oh, hi, Dan. Well, React is here right now. You don't have polyfills. I don't want to get into a bunch of philosophical stuff about web components and whether that's a good idea. I don't want to trash it. I'm sure it's great. But React is really good at what it does, and it's the easiest thing. It's the quickest way to get components like this into your project. And Yeah. So I don't want to like. Otherwise, if I keep answering that question, I'll be a spokesperson for React, and we don't need that.
We have a question from the room.
Can we take the best of React's components, make them Meteor packages, and plug them into our Meteor thing without knowing React?
Yeah, actually, okay. So that's actually I don't want to flip the slide away, my advertising here for my packages and stuff, but it's really easy. So if you want to actually here, this is what you need to do.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question is, can you package up something you've written in React so it doesn't infect the rest of your Meteor project, right? If you don't want it mixed up in there, can you take a React package? So absolutely you can. So that React.js React package, so you would add that to your package.js file, the api.use, right? And that'll pull it down. And it basically registers the JSX compiler thing, right, into that. So it'll go and take your JSX files. You can basically include JSX files into your package and just write your stuff like you would and expose it. Hell, you could probably wrap it in a Blaze template if you wanted to make it really easy, and that would work just fine.
This may be a related question, but from Twitter we have, can you use JSX in your Meteor React components?
Oh yes, that's exactly the same question, yes.
Yeah.
Here, to prove it, I'll put my advertising away, and I'll show my package.js file. Where did that go? I tried not to show too much code in my, I closed Sublime. Here, let me bring it up. Okay, let's flip. Yeah, so here. You can definitely do that. Let me. So here, see, so you have your JSX files. You can just stuff them right in there. You include, so your api.use React.js React, and you're good to go. And so you can go and basically export your these are all React classes that we've created, that I've created. So it's really straightforward. Next. Do we have any more?
Any more questions from, okay, from over here.
Any thoughts on React Native?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I haven't used it. It came out today, so I think that's really cool. Maybe I'll come back at Devshop and talk about how well that's going after I get some time on it. I really like that idea about learning something once and then writing platform-specific code for each thing. I really hate this idea of writing user interface code that's supposed to be good on a bunch of platforms. So I'm really excited about that approach. I think it's great.
Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Oh, the question was, I just answered it. I should be able to repeat it.
What do you think of React Native?
Yeah, what do you think of React Native? That's what I think of React Native. I think it's pretty awesome. Yeah. Not having used it, I have no idea if it's actually awesome. I saw the video in January they did. Looks good and promising.
Any more questions from the room?
There's about 6 different React packages. Can you say why you chose what you chose to work on?
Oh, 6 different, what do you mean?
Meteor, React, there's lots and lots of different...
Oh, that enables some of the functionality? Yeah, so let me flip back. Where did I put that? I have an answer. Yeah, so this slide, so Ben works here at Meteor, and this is, and he worked on React at Facebook, and so I don't know if it's a really official thing that everybody should use, but yeah, I think that this is, I actually didn't know that there are other packages that do it, so I would assume this is the best one. Probably is, trust me.
And we have one more question from the internet. Did React performance come into your decision to use React?
No, performance wasn't an issue either way. Blaze is really awesome, with performance. So, yeah, the perf isn't really an issue. I mean, there's things that you can turn on to tell you about performance with React, but yeah, it's not a performance thing. It's an API thing.
Any more questions? All right, thanks so much, Max.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, we're going to take a short break, and if you're giving a lightning talk, please come backstage so we can get you mic'd up. And for everyone else, we will see you again at 7:50. All right.
Yeah, you can ask someone else. I actually think this will work better. Or post on the forum.
Yeah. Did you time it? Well, actually,
Yeah, I'm gonna skip the.
they might be willing to run the time because when I went, they were like oversubscribed. Usually they are. This is really hard to do. Usually it's fast. Usually with people upstairs, they go to get that one. Yeah. Not right now. Yeah. We got enough stuff to worry about. Check out the slide. I know. It was one of
Yeah, so Matt, we can get started now. All right, we're gonna get started with lightning talks now. So everyone, please take a seat. All right. All right, we're gonna begin again. So first up, we have, if everyone could wrap up your conversations. Excuse me. All right. Yeah. So first up, we have Matt Slater.
Thanks so much. Excited to be here. So my name is Matt Slater. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hedging. We are a Bitcoin startup, and we're doing Bitcoin hedging contracts. So what is a hedging contract? Well, there's a big problem in Bitcoin. I'm going to get to the app in a second, but I want to give some context for the product. So in Bitcoin, if you're not familiar with Bitcoin, it's a digital currency that you can send like money on the internet, and it's extremely volatile. The price goes up and down all the time. And so for usability, for a business owner, for the Bitcoin miners that make the Bitcoin, for a merchant or a payment gateway, this is a big problem. And so we built our business around solving this problem and offering a solution that allows somebody to lock in the dollar value of their Bitcoin. So we built an app for that, and it is a smart peer-to-peer hedging contract. What's interesting is this is done using multi-signature technology on the Bitcoin blockchain, and it's completely peer-to-peer between two parties. So I'm going to get to the demo. So this is our, little reset here. This is our app, and this is built in Node and Meteor, obviously. It's between two counterparties. So Alice is going to be the short party, which means she's locking in her dollar amount in Bitcoin. And then we match them with an investor or a speculator who's going to speculate on the price of Bitcoin. So we enter the price that they want to lock in at, the term, which is the amount of days, and the amount of Bitcoin, as well as the deposit required to enforce it. So I'm going to go into demo here. So this is Alice. This is her contract page. I've created a contract. It's for 1-day term, you can see there, for 0.1 Bitcoin, and it's going to be locking in at $247 per Bitcoin, so roughly $24. We're going to initiate the contract on Alice's side, and the first step is you have to create a private key, and this is what makes it peer-to-peer on the Bitcoin network. So the first is generate the key. I got Bob on the other side here, who's going to create his key as well. Again, $247 per Bitcoin. Initiate the contract, generate the key, and we send that key via email, encrypted. So I'm going to click on this link here. This just came in, and it has a unique URL that's sent to Alice. She clicks this link. It takes her to her unique contract page. She has to use, this uses what's called a one-time pad to decrypt the key and sign in the browser. So the key generation was done in the browser, as well as the signing. So I'm going to do the same on Bob's side here. Bob's email. Click the unique URL. And now we're going to fund the contract. And this is how we ensure that the contract is paid out according to the price movement. So I'm going to click Pay from Wallet. I have just a local Bitcoin wallet here with some Bitcoin in it. It generates the payment address for me. I'm going to click Send, enter my password, and that'll send it to the multi-signature address in red there, which is on it's just a public Bitcoin address. And it's going to take a second here. It is still in beta, so forgive any bugs that exist. We're going to do the same on Bob's side as well. So here it goes. It just refreshed. It says contract funded. So that was updated. We're going to do the same for Bob's side as well. Oops. Okay, there it goes. All right, contract funded. Here it goes. And then the last step is to sign it. So this is Alice and Bob agreeing to the terms of the contract. We're going to sign on one side, sign on the other side. And now we can see here, if I take this multi-signature address and type it in to a block explorer. So this is blocker.io. They are a public blockchain explorer where you can see the value and balances of Bitcoin addresses. I enter that address in there, and you can see that 0.03 Bitcoin has been received, so that Alice and Bob both know that they both funded the contract. And that is, I go to Alice here, you can see the summary, 0.1 at 247, and you can see the profit and loss. And yeah, and that's the demo of the app. So we are a small team based here in San Francisco. Just raised our seed round recently, and we're hiring. This is our stack. If you want to learn more about Bitcoin and Hedging and derivatives, what we're up to, please come and talk to me afterwards. Thanks so much. Take some questions.
All right, questions for Matt over here.
I'm sure there's a lot.
How did you make client-side JavaScript a signed, sealed, secure environment for doing that?
So just for some pretext, I'm more the non-technical founder, but all of it is done, I mean, as you saw in the browser. I mean, I'm going to have to defer to my technical co-founder for that question.
Other questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Next up, we have Slava Kim. And Slava is going to show us Meteor autocompletion for Sublime text.
Okay. I think it works. All right, hi everyone. Hi again. And a year ago, or more than a year ago, I showed one of my side projects, which was called Meteor for Turn.js. Turn.js is an autocompletion engine that is open source, and a year ago, I integrated it with a whole bunch of different text editors. I integrated it with Vim, Emacs, Sublime Text, and then later people adopted it for, I think, brackets and Eclipse. But it's been a long time ago, and since then, I didn't really work on this project much. But I accumulated 200 stars, or more than 200 stars. And I asked people on Twitter, what do you want to see in the next version if I try to work on it? So people asked me for two things: make the Sublime Text integration better, and the second thing was make Atom integration better. So Atom was kind of hard, so I decided to go with Sublime Text. So I built a new package specifically for Sublime Text. And it's here on GitHub. I work on it kind of actively almost every weekend. And it's on package control. And so far, I have more than 500 people who tried it out. And generally, people like it. So what's different with this package compared to my previous package? So first of all, it's much easier to install. You can just press Command-Shift-P and install package. And then you can just type Meteor and find my package is the second one, Meteor Autocompletion, and just press Enter. And once it's done downloading, it's basically ready to go. You don't need to configure anything. You don't need to create any extra files. It just works, which is much better than it used to be. Before, you had to create a lot of things and understand how it works. So now I'm inside Telescope, and I hope you all know what Telescope is. It's a big, kind of big open source app in Meteor. And I can show you the auto-completion features that I implemented in this version. So as you can see, I have post meta. And let's see, it understands that it's an array. And similarly, like I can autocomplete any Meteor APIs. So that's good. But you probably already have seen it before. A new feature that I implemented was jump to definition, which works much better in Sublime now. You can just open the palette and say jump to definition, and it will just show you where it is. And you can see here's the file where we define this array. So the good thing is it works pretty well for all packages and apps that I tested on so far. So for example, here's another file in a different part of the code base. And I can run the same jump to definition again, and it jumps to that collection. Similarly, you can find the documentation, which I also implemented. So I can just ask for documentation. Oh, or more than the type, I guess. And well, it didn't find anything here. But if I click on the comments and I ask for documentation, well, it knows it's a function. OK, it's not very useful for this particular example, but overall, it's pretty good. Another thing that I implemented was jump to definition of the template. So if I start typing template dot, you will see a lot of different templates that Telescope has. So let's take one of them. Let's take categories. And if I put my cursor on it and jump to definition, it will open the template file, because it kind of understands where it comes from and what is the exact file that needs to be open. So that's pretty cool. Especially what I want to highlight here is the new installation process. It's very easy. It downloads all the Node and NPM modules and everything you need, even if you don't have it globally installed. And I think it was a huge pain before. And yeah, so what I had to do, I had to fork the entire project of Turn.js and just do things the way I like them to do. And that's the result. So please try it out. Install it from package control. It's just one command. And let me know what you think about it. Thanks.
Thank you.
And I guess I can get any questions. That's 30 seconds.
Oh, you have more than 30 seconds for questions if you have them.
Please, David.
CoffeeScript support?
CoffeeScript support? No. Well, first of all, CoffeeScript is not supported by Turn.js. And Turn.js is a project by a person who lives in Europe, works on his day job, and then comes home and works on a lot of different cool projects like Acorn, CodeMirror, and Turn.js including. So this person doesn't really have a lot of time. And every time you ask him to implement a new feature, he asks to create a crowdfunding campaign to fund his efforts. And I think he's doing the right thing, because I don't think CoffeeScript support is very easy to implement. So if you want to, you can pay me, and I can build it for you, given that you gather enough money. But I think that's just a question of development time. And there's another big project that they're working on, or at least starting to think of working on. It's ECMAScript 6 support, which I think is far more interesting for a lot of people nowadays. So yeah, no CoffeeScript. No. Any other questions?
What about WebStorm?
What about WebStorm? Well, WebStorm, I love WebStorm. Fellow Russian comrades built it. I really like it. WebStorm works pretty well, and I actually have an email thread with one of the team leads from JetBrains. So the new WebStorm version actually has even better integration with Meteor, which I'm very excited about. But I'm not a big fan of IDEs. I always use Vim. So for people who, like me, I try to develop these plugins to help people who don't like Java-based software, I guess. Yeah.
And Rahul, you had a question?
No.
Okay, not anymore.
No, it was a mistake.
Other questions for Slava?
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. All right. Last but not least, we have Mike Rissy, and he's going to speak about package testing with Mocha.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about Meteor package testing with Mocha. For those of you that have done package testing so far, you're probably not with TinyTest. But before I get into things, I want to point out that all of the really nice looking reporter stuff that you're going to see is not my work, but that of Phil Cockfield's Respondly. So TinyTest. TinyTest is a pretty good way to test your packages. It's solid. Built here by MDG, so it's up to their usual high quality of code. It's a little bit weird, though. You have to use these constructs like async multi, which I found a little bit confusing, and they're not super well documented. And there's testing frameworks that I've already used a lot and am fairly comfortable with, like Mocha. Mocha is one of the two dominant testing frameworks for JavaScript. It's been around for about 5 years. And what I'm going to show you now is that you're able to use Mocha to test packages. Oh boy. I think that'll do. So I made a special leaderboard here, which is designed to just show off how to test these packages. For those of you that have used TinyTest before, the test packages command should be familiar. What you might not be so familiar with is this driver package flag here. And that basically lets you use a different package for doing your reporting. So let's run this and see what it looks like. And the sample string reverser is the package that I'm testing in this case. So this is the new reporter. I'll let you be the judge, but I think it's one of the nicest looking reporters to date. And you can go between the passed tests, the failed tests. It's possible to skip tests in Mocha, so you can look at any tests that you may have skipped there. So let's go make a test fail and watch how that happens. So I'm just going to expect 2 to equal 3 and save that. And now we have one failure here. And we can go and look at the stack trace here. We can go look at our passing tests if we want to feel a little bit better. Or we can go back here and change it and fix it again, and it's going to turn blue. So you have to get used to the pink-blue testing, which might be weird if you're coming from the red-green world. But most people have been able to handle it pretty well so far. And then as far as like what it actually looks like, it's pretty simple. Instead of using TinyTest up here, you just point to this Mocha package here. I also included Chai here, which is an assertion library. and then you just add your tests. And what's nice about this approach is it uses a lot of the stuff that's built by Meteor. So a lot of the stuff that's given us trouble with velocity is around managing multiple copies of the app. And taking this approach basically lets us ignore that problem and use a solution that Meteor has already come up with. And I think that's basically it. If you want to find out more about it, go to blog.respondly. And I sort of go over like the steps for getting started. Eventually, that's going to be probably brought into the normal velocity and Mocha documentation. But for now, that article there is your best bet. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on Twitter, or just like post a question on the testing category of the Meteor forums. Yeah, thanks.
We have questions for Mike. There we go. Yeah. No, you.
So just so I understand, so this doesn't use the whole velocity framework? This is alternative?
So the question was, is this using the velocity framework? It's using part of the velocity framework. So it's still putting to the Mongo collections the same way that velocity does. And it hasn't been tested yet, but in theory, you should be able to use this reporter with like an existing velocity framework. Or if you want to use the existing HTML reporter, you should be able to plug that in. That's theoretical, though. I haven't tested that, so I'd probably.
So what's the benefit of velocity?
Well, so velocity solves a different problem. This is primarily for package testing. And velocity is still like pretty much the only way to test the code that's in your root app.
You had a question, Sue?
I had the same question.
Oh, okay.
Okay, cool.
Do we have any other questions?
What's the distinction between testing the root app and testing the package? It seems like it should be the same problem. What's the distinction?
So the question is, what's the distinction between testing the root app and testing packages? I mean, I find it really useful to be able to test the root app just because I don't want to have to move my app into packages. But you might be getting at, like, why is it a different problem even? Basically, Meteor provides facilities for testing packages and not for testing the root app. And yeah, it'd take more than 5 or 10 seconds to really get into why those are two different problems. It's probably worth a blog post at some point.
And I think we had a question over here. Any other questions for Mike? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much to our speakers. Our next Devshop San Francisco will be Thursday, April 30th. We'll be announcing the speakers for that in the next few weeks, so please RSVP and save the date for that. If you're watching this online, please subscribe to the YouTube channel to be notified of new videos and Devshop live events. You can rewatch this live stream anytime, and we'll also be posting each talk as an individual video. We also had talks today in Devshop in London for Devshop London. So we have Devshop every month in San Francisco and London, so the talks from London will also be posted online. For those of you who are here in person, please help us clean up by throwing away one piece of trash and bringing your chair to the back corner. So we still have plenty of food and drinks, so everyone please feel free to stick around and socialize. So thanks again, everyone, for coming. We'll see you next time.